Hi there. I hope you guys are doing well today. My name is William Brasic, and I will be presenting my professional paper I did for the Department of Economics here at UNLV, which is called Financial Literacy in Senior Age Food Insecurity: An Instrumental Variables Approach. So here's just a general outline of my presentation. So what exactly is food insecurity? I feel like it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but a lot of people don't exactly know what it is. And here's a formal definition by Feeding America: a lack of consistent access to enough food for every person in a household to live an active and healthy life. So essentially, if you go into your fridge and you don't have enough food to feed your family, well, that will be someone that's food insecure. Why should we care? Like I said, I think that it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but people don't really know how prevalent it is in America and in the world in general. You can see 36.8 million total individuals and 10.4 million children pre-pandemic suffered from it. And then just in 2021 alone, we had 42 million children, or 42 million adults and 13 million children. Various psychological consequences, such as social anxiety, and various physiological consequences, such as hunger and higher probability of asthma, just to name a few. And so I touched on the general population and children specifically, but I didn't mention seniors specifically. But seniors shouldn't be forgotten. They definitely suffer from the issue, and you know, 5.2 million have faced the issue, and food insecure seniors intake of critical nutrients such as iron and protein, and really all those critical nutrients, vitamin C, vitamin D, so on and so forth, are relatively lower in comparison to food secure seniors. And the consequences I illustrated on the prior slide are just as severe. Now, the other main component of my paper is financial literacy. So there's a formal definition there, but you can essentially think of financial literacy as if is one's ability to digest financial information, take it in, and then use that financial information to make good financial choices. Now, the purpose of my paper is to, one, establish, is there a relationship between financial literacy and food insecurity? And if so, how strong is that relationship? Now, for my data set, I collected data from November to December in 2019 on 1,002 seniors. I define seniors as those individuals being at least age 60. And then these seniors were asked various questions to measure their food security, their financial literacy, their demography and household characteristics, and so on. Now, the outcome variable, as I said, we're trying to determine is financial literacy a determinant of food insecurity? So, therefore, it makes sense that food insecurity would be the outcome variable, and we're going to define that outcome variable to be binary in nature. So, if that outcome variable, if food insecurity equals 1, then that senior would be food insecure. If a senior is not food insecure, then it would be 0. So fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Now, the main covariate that we're interested in is financial literacy. And so financial literacy can be broken down into two aspects, which is financial confidence, financial behaviors. So to get at financial confidence, respondents were asked questions to kind of rate themselves. How confident are they in their financial abilities? And then further questions were asked to measure financial behaviors, such as, does an individual pay their bills on time? Do they pay their bill in full? Stuff like that. And then we did some mathematics to combine those two elements into a single aggregate measure to measure financial literacy. Just some summary statistics. We had a mean score of approximately 4 when the respondents were measuring their financial confidence in their own abilities, as well as another mean score of approximately 4 when they were rating their confidence in their parents' level of financial confidence, which is very important to my paper. I'll dive into that in a little bit. Just more basic stats on my data set. We had a mean income of $45,000. Majority of respondents were female. The vast majority of respondents were white. Mean age was a 73.6. Now let's go into my estimation strategy. So I first estimate a linear probability model which is equation 1 right here. And don't get too bogged down in the details here. You can disregard this xi beta plus this epsilon, these last two terms. What we're mainly after is this phi. This phi is going to tell us, one, is financial literacy significant, and how significant is it? But the problem with the linear probability model is that we have an endogeneity concern. So you could think of uh, when we're trying to establish causality, endogeneity is always of critical concern among econometricians. So one scenario that you could think of is, well, financial literacy could be determined by innate ability, just someone's natural intellectual ability, which is definitely a reasonable argument. And then we would have an endogeneity concern, and our argument for causality would be weakened. To alleviate those concerns, I carry out a two-stage least squares approach, which is equation 2 here. Again, don't get too worried about the mathematics here. Essentially, all that this equation does is attempts to alleviate the endogeneity issues I just previously brought to light. Now let's get into some results here. So in the most parsimonious model, that being the model with the most controls, I have phi, which is negative 0.141. And what that means is that a 1 standard deviation increase in a senior's level of financial literacy is associated with a decline in the probability of a senior being food insecure by 14.1 percentage points. And this p being less than 0.01 just indicates it's statistically significant. And 14.1 percentage point, that's a pretty larger magnitude. So what this is telling us in general is that financial literacy is significant, and it seems to have a big impact on on an individual, on a senior being food insecure. Now, that was a linear probability model. So when we go and estimate the most parsimonious model again, but using the two-stage least squares approach, we get a negative 0.296, which means the exact same thing, except now it's a 29.6 percentage point reduction. Statistically significant again. I conduct some statistical tests here just to make sure all my results are fairly sound, and it does pass those tests. And just as for a discussion of these results now, let's kind of dive into, well, what exactly does a 1 standard deviation increase even mean? This is a problem for me when I was doing my paper. I really wanted to make sure that, say, a policymaker could read these results, interpret them, and then know how to know how they could establish policies to alleviate financial literacy, and then therefore alleviate food insecurity. So essentially, you could think of a 1 standard deviation increase as meaning a senior going from never keeping track of spending to sometimes keeping track of spending, or a senior sometimes paying bills on time to always paying bills on time, or sometimes paying their bills in full to always paying their bills in full. Those are just some examples of how you can kind of interpret these results. And now, just as a conclusion, food insecurity is a severe issue, and I think that it should definitely be given more concern among econometricians in the economics literature and the food security literature specifically, and just the public in general. Now, policymakers should exercise some caution here until my results can be further validated. So we should be waiting until there's further research conducted that can, say, validate my findings. And yeah, if there's any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. I'd be happy to answer to the best of my ability. And hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for listening.